Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Perspective. In the first segment, we examine what's happening as far as the US-Iran headway is concerned. Of course, we are looking at diplomatic momentum that appears to be building towards a possible US-Iran agreement. Reports suggesting that Washington and Tehran are edging closer to a negotiated settlement. Of course, we are also looking at perhaps a signing ceremony in Pakistan and whether that will follow. We are also looking at Islamabad, of course, emerging as a leading contender to host this signing ceremony. What role is Pakistan playing as far as this evolving diplomatic process is concerned? And can it really bridge the gap between the two sides that still, it seems, exists? A little later on, we'll also be talking about Pakistan's growing diplomatic profile at a time when analysts are increasingly questioning the success of India's long-standing strategy to isolate Islamabad internationally. From expanding ties with Washington, Beijing, Tehran, the Gulf states, to its role in regional diplomacy, Pakistan appears to be gaining strategic relevance. At the same time, renewed discussions in India. Of course, we are looking at Operation Sindoor 2.0 has sparked debate over New Delhi's regional approach and the future direction that India-Pakistan relations, whether this will follow or not. And of course, as far as the region itself is concerned, what are we looking at as far as the region is concerned, as far as South Asia particularly concerned? When we look at this kind of reports as far as Operation Sindoor 2.2 is concerned, we'll be talking about all of that today. I have with me Dr. Zafar Nawaz Jaspal, who's a foreign affairs expert, joining us. Thank you for being with us. Dr. Jaspal, when we look at what's happening between Washington and Tehran, what are your thoughts at this time, first of all? Because, you know, one has to say that things do look extremely uncertain, because we are looking at reports saying that there is perhaps, a very likely possibility of this closing down and emerging into an agreement. And then in the next instance, we hear inflammatory remarks. So what are your thoughts?
My understanding is that the situation is not as bad as it seems. The negotiations continuity is itself an assurance that they are agreed to do something concrete for a peace. Both sides are, of course, having a rhetoric, war rhetoric, and at the same time, they are giving the signals that they are inching towards the closer. When we see Pakistani ruling elites, I mean the Field Marshal or Prime Minister Shehbaz statements, we find that they are very confident that the deal will be going to see the light of the day. Of course, in this entire process, there is another, what we call a troubling block, or you can say one trouble is Israel. Israel has been increasing its southern Lebanon, you can say, operations and killing the people, which is also part of the deal, because Iran's one of the elements or characteristic of this deal is that there must be complete ceasefire in Lebanon, and it's between Lebanon and Israel. So that is an issue. Maybe Americans deliberately delaying it so that Israel achieve its objectives, whatever it desires in the southern Lebanon, because they all failed to achieve their objectives in Iraq. So these are the many issues which one cannot ignore, but still I'm very much confident that there will be a deal between United States and Iran for a permanent peace in the region.
And should this deal emerge, which is what everyone is hoping for, and of course Pakistan is a possible venue for the US-Iran peace agreement, how significant is this for Pakistan? And of course, our diplomatic standing, also, what we have been doing behind the scenes when we look at, the diplomacy at play, Field Marshal Asim Munir, Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif. Overall, how are you looking at that, and what will it mean for Pakistan?
For Pakistan, it means a lot. Field Marshal Asim Munir, Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, since the last 3 months, they have been engaged in settling, or you can say bridging the gap between Iran and United States. They are shuttling, they are approaching not only Iran and United States, but at the same time, other regional actors, including the Arab states. So in this context, if you see, Pakistan did a very much a possible thing which is impossible generally. If you see that only today Pakistan enjoys respect in Tehran as well as in Washington, there's not even a single other state which has this kind of a diplomatic clout now. In this context, of course, it has significant impact on the Pakistan's political and diplomatic image regionally as well as internationally. At the same time, your second part of the question was that where it could take place. Americans are not willing to go to Tehran, and same as Tehran will be not going to, the Iranians are not going to Washington. Then the neutral place for both sides is Pakistan. Of course, negotiators are meeting in Qatar, but Qatar is not as neutral place viewed as Islamabad. And if you see, it's and you can finish part of the first round of talks, and definitely we can expect that the leaders of the United States and Iran will be going to meet in Islamabad to ink the deal here.
When we look at, the recent statements that have come from Washington, as far as we've seen Rubio also talk about particularly Pakistan, mention it specifically, and say that, this is a growing relationship and a sincere friendship. And also we've seen the recent remarks that have been consistent as far as President Donald Trump is concerned. How are you looking at this in terms of, of course, and the fact that they've continued to reiterate that Pakistan's involvement has been essential in what's happening behind the scenes? How significant is this as far as the US-Pakistan relations also?
If you see, since President Trump, you can say, second term started, Pakistan and US relationships are on the positive trajectory. In the first State of the Union address, President Trump praised Pakistan because Pakistan captured and handed over the most wanted terrorist who was involved in the Navigate at Kabul airport, in which the American soldiers were killed. Since that day onward, if you see step by step, the relationships were improving, and especially when Pakistan beaten India in May, and when President Trump approached Pakistan for as you can see, ceasefire and not escalate the further conflict, when India actually requested President Trump, Pakistan, knowing that it is winning, but it complied. And since that day onward, if you see, the President Trump is very much expressing his fondness of Field Marshal Asim Munir and Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif and other Pakistani leadership. You rightly pointed out that the Rubio is saying, and even yesterday, on Saturday, in the plenary speaking at the Asian Summit, which is also known as Shangri-La Dialogue, Secretary of Defense, United States, Pete Hegseth, also talked about Pakistan's positive and constructive role in peace deal with it. Naturally, these developments have a very constructive impact on Pakistan and US relations. But at the same time, we have also noticed that Pakistan very skillfully maintained a diplomatic balance. It is now having a good relation with China, with the United States, as well as with Russia. And within the region...
Dr. Jaspal, you've mentioned this, and I'm going to interject because, you're saying that, of course, the way that we've maintained on that point, when we look at our relationship, do you think that our relationship as far as Beijing is concerned, of course, Gulf states, Saudi Arabia also, do you think that itself has changed the way Pakistan is being viewed generally also? Because we are looking, and also by the US, because if you look at the past relationship, I want to take a moment to go there perhaps. And, as far as a partner, as far as the US is concerned, do you think that changes the lens because, we've maintained our own across the board?
It definitely has changed. Pakistan is now viewed internationally that a middle power, influential middle power in this region. Pakistan played very skillfully, as you very rightly pointed out, a balancing act. And at the same time, now America started realizing that Pakistan is not dependent on them. Today, they need a Pakistan. Of course, Pakistan need a very big, you can say, good relation with the United States, but not at the cost of China. Same as Chinese also understand our limits and our needs. So in this context, when I look about, you can see that on the one side, you are welcomed. Our field marshal twice very much welcomed, and Iranians agreed whatever he was recommending them to facilitate the mediation or these kind of things. But at the same time, we have signed a mutual defense agreement with with the Saudi Arabia. So Iranians are not, you can say, disturbed with it. So in this context, Pakistan diplomatically is doing very excellently, and it will be going to raise the stature of the state among the community of the nations.
When we look at the situation otherwise, when we look at what's happening as far as Israel, the role of Israel is concerned, the military operations in Lebanon, how significant is it with regard to the US-Iran deal and as far as a sticking point is concerned? What are your thoughts on this?
It's very disturbing. It's very dangerous. What Israel is doing, it is deliberately doing. It is increasing the violence in southern Lebanon. It's capturing the land, but it will not guarantee the peace for Israel. United States is backing this wholeheartedly. If we see that, I think last week, a few days back, U.S. Congress passed an act by which they are further strengthening the Israeli military. So Americans desire Israel shall be a leading power or a dominating power in the region. But in this Iran-Israel and U.S.-Israel joint aggression against Iran exposed the limitations of Israel. But this is the main sticking point. If you see, there are four major elements which we can say could be the part of memorandum of understanding between Iran and US. One is nuclear. Iran is very much willing to negotiate, and everyone understands that there could be a rhetoric, but substantially there is a possibility. Second is what we call it Strait of Hormuz. Iran is very much positively reflecting on it, and it has given the impression it is not going to impose terms. So third is what we call it Iran sanctions on the Iran. Americans are also willing to provide a relief or you can say lift these sanctions gradually. And fourth could be this Lebanon issue, or that issue is not, you can say, guaranteed, because what the Iranians say that the third time there shall not be an aggression against Iran. But if this situation continued in Lebanon, there could be chances that again both parties. So Israel is the main hurdle, and hurdle is due to losing Netanyahu's popularity within Israeli politics. So this is a main, you can say, obstacle in these negotiations. Otherwise, as you very rightly pointed out in the intro of today's program, that one day we see that a deal is done, and next day we find that again American president is pushing it in a different manner. 3 times he made changes. So this mercurial temperament and pro-Israeli lobby within the United States is pressurizing the President Trump, and that could spoil, or it will be causing not only a problem for the neighbors of the Iran or Middle Eastern countries, but for the entire world. And with the passage of time, economic fallout is now becoming very much, you can say, is haunting not only the Americans. 60 billion US dollars household consumptions have increased, or they paid the price in the United States. So situation is not easy because of the Israel's, what you call it, stubborn or unlawful approach in the region.
Right. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Jaspal. Thank you for being with us. I'm going to move on to Syed Mali, who's a lecturer at Johns Hopkins University, joining us from America. Thank you for being with us. Syed Ali, when we look at Washington's perspective, why does the United States appear increasingly interested in pursuing a negotiated settlement? And yet we're also looking at the President Donald Trump say that, this must not be hurried, and that, one must take its time, we must take its time as far as the settlement is concerned. So what is happening in your opinion behind the scenes?
Well, I'm coming to you from Lahore, but based in DC, so currently I'm also looking at it from afar. But basically, I think the US has gotten into something that it did not think would happen. The Trump administration really, I think, had assumed that just given a little push, the clergy in Iran would fall. And that is the kind of portrayal that had been sold to the Trump administration by perhaps Israel. So now, now that this has been dragging on and it's been destabilizing energy markets, it's been disrupting maritime trade routes, it has the potential of creating broader, wider, regional, lingering proxy conflicts. Yeah, and Iran remains stubbornly with its back against the wall. I mean, it remains unwilling relinquish its nuclear program. So now I think this kind of stalemate is a situation where the US may aim to extend, the current ceasefire and give it more longevity in the hopes of addressing some of the more difficult issues later, like Iran's nuclear capability and sanctions relief, and what that formula is going to be like and how it's going to be different from what the Obama administration had initially proposed is the million-dollar question.
Do you think that that is also, of course, a sticking point as within the US as far as the Donald Trump administration is concerned? Because, of course, they want this to be a better deal, right?
They want this to be a better deal, but in these increasingly complex circumstances now, after the earlier attacks on Iranian nuclear facilities, it is also going to be very difficult to retrieve. I mean, forget the IAEA being able to go and do those inspections, but even the sort of the logistics around retrieving highly enriched uranium, like where exactly is it? Is it under tons of rubble? If so, who will be responsible for retrieving it? Who will be responsible for storing it? President Trump has offered that the Americans will assist with that, but unless there's there's an immense carrot dangled to the Iranian regime, it is unlikely that they would want, because for them this is more of a sovereignty issue as well. And it is, with increasing attacks on Iran's sort of energy infrastructure, it is also a need, the need to harness nuclear energy. I mean, Iran is not the only country that has been trying to do this. And now trying to create a verification scheme after this kind of configuration that is satisfactory and better than what the Obama administration achieved is going to be a tall order.
But when we look at Donald Trump insisting on strict guarantees with regard to the nuclear program, how feasible is this? And isn't it going to be difficult, in your opinion, to secure these guarantees?
Well, I mean, the IAEA did have objections with Iran. It's not like all their cards were on the table, but the Ayatollah had issued a fatwa that Iran is not going to pursue nuclear weapons. His son, I mean, with the sort of assassination, martyrdom of the Ayatollah, his son has not made such a vow. So on the one hand, there is this. On the other hand, they have been attacked twice now since the since what began with Gaza and what is happening in Lebanon and elsewhere, Syria, other Middle Eastern countries. And this is the second time that Iran has been attacked. So it is negotiating the verification, the retrieval of the highly enriched uranium, coming to some sort of a deal, tying that to sanctions relief, like that is the stuff that, at least in the public domain, is there's very little known about that. There might already be homework being done on it, but what will be the monitoring mechanism? What will be the verification mechanism? What kind of restrictions will Iran concede to? All of these remain very thorny issues.